What's up, y'all? It's TruthTiger, and I have a message for you guys today, and that is to not find your identity within the system. Do not seek identity within the system. A lot of people seek identity in the system of society. Many people are seeking their identity through politics, and that's their whole identity, is their political affiliations, who they vote for, the other group, the other party that they're against. And they get so condensed into that, and people who disagree with them, they push them on the outside, and they become very insulated, and it puts your mind in a cage. It really tightens up your mind and closes up your mind to possibilities that don't conform to your worldview. So, and I've done this a lot in the past, where I've gotten too into the politics, and my mind has kind of become my mind was kind of too solid in that, and you want your mind to be loose and flexible. You want your bones to be solid, but your mind needs to be adaptable to take in new information. And if you're so caught up on these politics and stuff, your mind is just going to become hard like a rock. It's going to become stiff, and you're not going to see anything outside of it. Not to mention, it's going to become a part of your ego identity. So your own ego, your own sense of who you are, is going to be tied to this wholly external thing. And I'm not saying you can't have political opinions or views or whatever, but just don't make that your identity. You have to be bigger than that, and you have to be above that, and you have to look towards more important things than that. Another thing that people try to find identity in is either the red pill or the feminism, the men versus women, the battle of the genders, whatever, gender wars. And again, I've fallen victim to this myself, and a lot of people have, and it's one of these things where it's going to completely close off your worldview. It's going to put you in this victim mentality that you're either a woman who's a victim of men, or you're a man who's a victim of women, or whatever. And again, I'm not saying you can't have any thoughts or opinions on this, or you can't have any hot takes. Just don't make this your whole identity. Be bigger than this. I see so many people these days making the gender war their entire identity. And the thing about the gender war is it's going to make it very tough to have a good marriage, have a good relationship, have good romantic relationships, have a good family. If you're at war with the other gender, that's going to seep into your personal life, your family life, and it's a big reason why a lot of people are not getting married or having kids or anything like that. And I'm not saying everybody has to get married or have kids, but if the majority of people stop doing that, then the population will collapse. That's already happening, and there's other reasons for population collapse, lack of community, economic reasons, whatever, but that's one of the big factors for population collapse. And a lot of people are going to end up single and miserable. A lot of people are going to end up in miserable marriages and relationships. And look, I get it. I get that there are men who are not happy with what's happening with women. There's women who aren't happy with what's happening with men. Again, I'm not saying you can't have an opinion or any hot takes, but if you make this your whole identity and you just watch all these videos and read all these articles and that becomes your whole life, and you really solidify that and get caught up in this victim mentality that comes along with that, it's really not going to do you good. And the thing about a lot of that is a lot of people have anger toward their parents, anger toward their mother, anger toward their father. And this goes not just to the gender wars, but to everything I'm going to talk about. People have anger toward society, whatever. We live in a screwed up world. We live in a broken system. We live in the way of man. We don't live in the way of God. We live according to ego in this society. So, there's a lot of stuff to be upset about, and we have to toil the land. We have to work these jobs. We don't always want to work. You don't always want to go into your job and deal with that. And, there's a lot of frustrations. And I think people just project them onto these things. And again, make it their whole identity, and they become more angry and more disillusioned. And I've gone down this rabbit hole, and it did not lead me anywhere good. I'm not saying you can't be informed. I'm not saying you can't, be aware of things or have opinions, but, you do not want to make this kind of stuff the entirety of your identity. You do not want this stuff to take over your personality. It's going to make you a very unpleasant person, and it's going to push certain people away from you. So be very careful with that one. Another one is organized religion. I believe in God. I rock with Jesus, I'm spiritual, follow Christ, all that stuff. But getting caught up in organized religion is another thing that will take over your identity. And with organized religion, it becomes less about God. It becomes less about loving your fellow. It becomes less about seeking spiritual truth and having a heart filled with love and a mind filled with truth. And it just becomes about following that system, being about whatever that religious system is telling you to believe in. And it gets you in this very us versus them mentality that I'm against this other sect or this other religion or this other faith, and I'm on this side and they're on that side, and it can get very weird. There's a lot of pressure to donate money and to give money to these religious institutions. And there's a lot of drama and ego within these religious institutions, and a lot of people are not very friendly and are very fake, and there's just a lot of ego, and you don't want to have your identity be caught up in organized religion. You really don't. You want to remain you, and if you're involved in organized religion, just don't let it take over your entire personality, because that's definitely what the religious leaders are pushing for, is for that kind of stuff to just take over your personality, take over your life. Before you know it, you're doing all this volunteering, you're donating all this money. All your friends are now, the only friends you have are now people that are on the inside of this religious group that you're in. And it takes over your whole life. And that's the truth about all this stuff. What it will do. It will just insulate you, so your only friends are the people who conform with what you believe in, and then you have all these outsiders or people who disagree with you or on a different side of things, and then you're all against those people, and it takes away your own direction in life. And there's other parts of the system, the healthcare system, the education system, military, whatever. There's so many things that can, take over people's entire life and identity. I've seen it in so many different cases. And you just want to be careful with this stuff, to have it to where you're still you're above it, it's not above you. And again, and the way the world is, the way the system is, this stuff is above us. It is powerful because there's big collectives of people that enable it and stuff like that. And it's just kind of the way the world is. Everyone kind of works along this system in the world. So when I say above it, I don't mean you're going to literally have like this worldly power over it. I just mean internally, you realize there's much bigger, better things, and there's bigger and better priorities in life, and that you're so much more than just this system, But for most people, this system, it's all that they really are, and they lose their identity in it. They lose their individuality. They lose who they are. They become very angry and upset at people who don't conform to the things they conform to. And it leads to evil in the world. It leads to authoritarianism. It leads to people getting in trouble. It leads to just all kind of crap. So you really do not want to seek your identity in this system at all. I would even argue family. Ideally a good, healthy family is not the system, but most people's families are very unhealthy and are very toxic. I know mine is, and that family kind of becomes another part of the matrix, because the parents get super into the matrix and in the system, super into politics, organized religion, this, that, whatever, the healthcare system, well, whatever it is, they get super into it, and they project those values then down onto the children. And it just love of money is another big part of the system too. But the system just takes over these families, then your family just becomes more of the system. So you don't want to worship your family or anything like that, or let your family be your entire identity. You need to have your own sense of who you are. You can't let any of these systems, the family system, it's a system, you can't let any of these systems define you or take over who you are. And the thing is, when I was younger especially, I didn't have that strong of a sense of who I was, what my mission in life was. I didn't have a ton of agency, so I didn't have a good sense of like, I'm my own person, I do my own thing, I think for myself, I figure out my own stuff. I've always had a bit of that, but I never had maybe enough of that. Drinking some water here, just getting a little hiccups, so gotta fight that off. But yeah, you don't want these external things to take over who you are. You need to have your own strong sense of life purpose, your own strong sense of mission, your own strong sense of who you are, to where you're not just kind of wandering in the desert being like, I can join this group, I can be a part of this. Because when you join these kind of groups or you get super involved in the system, it gives you the illusion of community, the illusion of friendship, the illusion of being a part of a group. Because it's like, you don't feel very secure, you feel lost, you feel misguided, you're like, I don't know who I am, I don't know what to do. And now this kind of being a part of this group, it makes you feel like you're connected to something. It makes you feel like you have a community, like you have a family, like you have a purpose, like you have people who will have your back. But in the end of the day, with the system and stuff, a lot of these people, they're there to, complain about the politics with you or participate in whatever this stuff is, complain about gender, complain about, complain about organized religion, and they're there for that. But when you really need help, you really need a community, they're not really going to be there for you the way you need it. And if you start to question them, or, you start to have different ideas, you start to say, I see the other side of things, or I don't want this to take over my whole life, or whatever, then they'll start to question you. You're not devout enough, you're not involved enough, you're not engaged enough, and then they really won't be there for you. So you got to be careful about this, because it's not really a community or a family or a group. It's really not. And in terms of guidance in your own personal life, there's none of it. It's just about follow along with the group, conform, go to the protests, go to the church, go to the this, go to the that. And it doesn't really give you that kind of stuff. One of the biggest ones that I missed is just love of money. People being so obsessed with work, so obsessed with making money, so obsessed with the grind, so obsessed with getting ahead. And, there's times in life where you want to get ahead, you want to make more money. Like, I want to make more money, who doesn't, but, just being so obsessed with that, making that your personality and not seeing bigger, better things in life, that will also really get you caught up in a mentality. Because just being someone who's chasing money and is trying to get ahead, there's no real identity in that. It's just like, yeah, we're all trying to work this land, till this soil, and pay our bills and hopefully save up a little money. That's all we're really trying to do. And being so obsessed with that process, and seeing that process as a form of personality and identity, it's really not. It's not going to be there to keep you warm at night. It's not going to really make you friends. It'll keep you out of debt, maybe, but that's about it. It's just a means to an end. It's not like a way of life. But a lot of people are looking at these things as a way of life because they don't have a way of life. They don't have statutes that they live by. They don't have, I'm trying to describe this here, but they don't have like a way, They don't have a way. They don't have a path. They don't have an inner philosophical, spiritual constitution on the inside that, guides them. They don't really have those principles, I'm trying to describe this. It's kind of a tough way to describe, but most people just don't have that sense of who they are, those guiding principles, really a way of life. And they're seeking that out in these kinds of things. And I'm telling you, it's not going to give that to you. It's just not, Find your way of life from God, pray, meditate, read the Bible, do that in earnest. And, you will start to have an internal constitution, internal statutes, internal principles. It will start to solidify within you, and you'll have those things. But just trying to seek out the system, it's just going to feed your ego, And the thing also is, like, I want to talk about anger. Like, a lot of life is frustrating. There's a lot of stuff that we're upset about. But rather than just focusing on our anger on what's actually bothering us, which a lot of times is stuff from our childhood, it's our own families. And then outside of that, it's just this system we live in. Instead of focusing the anger on that, they focus an anger on, the opposing political group. They focus anger on the different religion. They focus anger on, whatever, on just some other stuff. And it's like, hey, actually focus your anger on the stuff you're actually upset about. And not only anger, but it's like, we all have this internal struggle. We have to forgive people who've wronged us, and that's not easy. We have to forgive ourselves and get past all our internal shame. And that's not easy. We have to figure out who we are. We have to go on our journey and figure out our life and what we want to do and what we're all about. And, we have to build character and build patience and build a work ethic. And we have to learn knowledge. We got to read and we got to figure stuff out. And it's a lot of work. And it's something you do on your own too. You don't really have much of a team to help you out. You might have people help you out here and there, but it's more of an individualistic kind of thing. And it's a lot easier to say, I'm going to join this group, join this collective, and then I don't have to do all that work because I joined the group, I joined the collective, and I can skip all that. And that's really what people feel like when they become super invested in the system. It gives them a false sense of morals, a false sense of purpose. And it's like, hey, you have to actually find that stuff in yourself, because morals and ethics and doing the right thing and being truly with God and being truly a righteous, good person, it exists outside of the system. Even organized religion, they sort of have a false version of God, and they twist up God and they twist up the Bible and they kind of move things around to suit the ego. So once you can get past all this stuff, which is just feeding the ego, which is what the system's doing, and you can really start to navigate for yourself, find your own way, find your own path, figure things out, you'll really start to realize how this system has just robbed you. It's robbed you of peace. It's robbed you of love. It's robbed you of healing. And it's robbed you of your ability to move forward. It's going to keep you in this undeveloped ego state. It is, a state where you're cheering for your team against the other team. And that's what it really is. And if you're just watching some sports on TV and you want your home team to win, at least for me, there's a sense of man, there's things way bigger than this in the end of the day. This is not my biggest, highest, greatest thing. It's just sometimes on the weekend, I've had a tough week. I want to watch the ball game and I hope the home team wins. But a lot of people, they really take that to the nth degree, and it's their whole identity, especially with politics. People make politics like they're God, And I'm telling you, living like that, being like that, you're going to end up unhappy, isolated, or around just a bunch of other egotistical people who just want to parrot the same things you're saying. And those same people, if you start to think differently, they're going to say you're not conforming to this group strongly enough. That's really what it is. That's really what it is. So you need to find your own sense of identity. Find your identity in Christ. Find your identity within Him, within the Creator, within the Savior. God has an identity for all of us. And God lets us craft our own identity because we have free will too. So we can do that with God, and we can craft a good identity, a good personality for ourselves. But trying to craft your personality based upon all this politics and stuff, it's just going to warp you, twist you, bend you, and just going to leave you all messed up and bent up out of shape. And then people are going to be like, well, what about these politicians I worshipped? What about all this organized religion? What about all this money I chased? What about all this? What about all that? And the people who are the leaders of that, they don't care about you as an individual. Not even in the slightest. So man, be your own person. Think for yourself. Get outside of the box. Because all that stuff in the system is going to put you in a box. And once you get out of that box, you can start to pick up on new ideas and new thoughts and a whole new perspective you never even thought existed. It'll make you so much smarter. And it'll make you so much happier and so much more at peace. And it'll make it so much easier to have love because you're not in this us versus them mentality. You're You're not like looking for like, I'm in this group and I'm against that group and blah, 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 blah. You're just like, no, I'm cool with people. I'm cool with myself. I'm cool with them. Yeah, I have my own worldview, sure, but I'm not like so caught up on that. I'm not like worshiping that. That's not my God. I'm just like, that's kind of more the way I see things. If new information comes along that changes my views, cool. If not, I'll probably keep it about the same, you know, but I'm just not going to be too stuck on it, too caught up on it, you know. And when you claim your own identity, life becomes much easier because you start to focus on your own hang-ups, your own issues, your own blockages. You start to think about what's really holding you back. You start to think about what you really want, who you really want to be. It becomes, you take more agency and ownership over yourself. So it becomes easier to make decisions, easier to actually figure things out for yourself. Because before, when you're seeking identity in the system, it's like you can't even really, you don't even have the confidence to make decisions for yourself. But now you're like, I'm my own person. I've thought for myself. I have the confidence to make decisions for myself. And like, you really pave your own way. I've said this a lot before in the past, but it's like you carve your own path. You're on some hiking trail, and instead of just going on the trail everyone else is going on, you're going to bust out your machete. You're going to chop down some blackberry bushes, some thorns, some little trees, and then you're going to find this beautiful waterfall that no one else even thought to go to because they were just they wanted to stay on the path that everyone else was on, rather than trying to figure things out for themselves and trying to make their own way in life. And the thing is, it's like most people severely lack the confidence to make their own way in life. It's not even a conception. They can't even think about it. They're in such a follower state. And when you start to become a leader, for one, other people start to be like, hey, you cut that trail down? You mind if I walk behind you? I want to see what you're doing. So people start to look to you, and you actually start to, for one, you start to respect yourself. Other people start to respect you. And you start to realize, like, I've had all these capabilities all along. I've had so much strength and so much, like, things I can do all along, but I just blocked myself out of it because I felt like I needed permission from the system. I felt like I needed to be a part of a group. I felt like I needed someone to sign off on this. You don't. You don't. And you start to really take self-confidence. And once you take self-confidence, you will shoot off like a rocket ship. Boom. You will be flying through the air like a rocket once you start to take self-confidence. You will. You will. But if you're seeking identity in the system, you won't really be able to do that. You will be blocked off from that. So I'm telling y'all, think about who you really are. Stop seeking identity in the system. Think for yourself, and you will accomplish great things. You will live a great life. You will do good. You will be free, loving, kind, filled with knowledge and wisdom, and you will be close to God. So yeah, I'm going to end this video here. Thank you all so much for watching. Much love. God bless. And I will see you all next time.